Now, have you ever sat down to watch a movie you've seen before and noticed something that never caught your eye on the first viewing? Of course you have. That's what makes the process of rewatching a motion picture an incredibly exciting one. You get to find things that evaded you, now you can focus elsewhere. You've probably seen all of the movies here. Believe me, there's some classics included, but in the cases of the little-known jokes, you may have been distracted at the time to notice that they were even happening. So with that in mind, I'm Adam, this is Whatculture, and here are 10 subtle movie jokes that probably went straight over your head. Number 10. Hindi radio, Shaun of the Dead. As with most film nerds turned filmmakers, Edgar Wright used Shaun of the Dead to cram in just about as many references and in-jokes as humanly possible, including this one that probably went straight over your head, unless of course you happen to speak Hindi. Remember the scene where Shaun, in a second of two near identical unbroken takes, tiredly shuffles to the shop? Not because he's been bitten or anything, but because it's early in the morning in England and that's how everybody walks around here. Well, Shaun, being half asleep and all, fails to notice that the zombie apocalypse has started. But if he'd spoken Hindi, he would have heard and understood the host on the radio show playing in the background saying, "The dead have come back to life. This is not a prank." Number 9. Jeff Bridges and his favourite shirt. Here's a movie joke that didn't start out as a movie joke at all, but slowly evolved into one across the span of, wait for it, 9 years. Yes, in 3 entirely separate movies, Cold Feet in 1989, The Fisher King in 1991, and The Big Lebowski in 1998, Bridges brought this shirt to the screen. Why? How? The only answer you need is Jeff Bridges, the man who even fought himself on a bridge, holding up the bridges. Anyway, the first couple of times the shirt happened, it wasn't particularly funny, but when you factor in the shirt's Big Lebowski appearance, you begin to appreciate this as a fine running joke. I wonder when we'll see it again. Number 8. Vincent shouldn't go to the bathroom, Pulp Fiction. Trying to work out all of the jokes and references that Quentin Tarantino has ripped off from obscure movies and included in his own work would take up a lot of your time, given that there are a seemingly endless number of them. Now think back to all of the scenes in Pulp Fiction where John Travolta's Vincent Vega goes to the bathroom. There are 3 instances of this in the movie, and each and every time he's there, something horrendous happens around him. The first time, Mia ends up overdosing on heroin. The next time we see him, well, Butch guns him down, and in the last instance, the diner ends up getting robbed. Something hits the fan whenever he's near a bathroom. Number 7. Flashback Humor, Fight Club. Fight Club, in a lot of ways, is a movie about movies, and director David Fincher uses the narrative framework of his 1999 masterpiece to deconstruct a bunch of filmmaking tropes. One gag likely went over everyone's heads the first time they saw the movie in theaters, but it's actually an incredibly clever, funny, and mind-bending moment of meta-inclined hilarity, and one that perfectly ties Fight Club together. So think back to the first scene in the movie. Tyler Durden asks our narrator if he has anything significant to say, to which he replies, "I can't think of anything." And then the rest of the movie plays out. When we return to this scene at the end, we should be getting an exact copy of it, but Fincher cleverly has Edward Norton say, "I still can't think of anything." Tyler hilariously replies, "Flashback humor." It's a joke that only makes sense if you remember way back to the start of the movie. Number 6. The Red Coat, Trainspotting. Trainspotting is the movie that brought Danny Boyle into the big time, and is still arguably his best and most accomplished venture to date. Well, aside from being a brilliant, never dull for a single second cinematic classic that tells the story of heroin addict Renton and his motley crew of unsavory characters, there are loads of little sight gags scattered throughout, including one involving an American in a red coat. One brief scene in the movie has our central characters sitting in a pub, when a happy American tourist wearing a bright red coat wanders in and asks to use the toilet. We watch him head to the bathroom with our unsightly gang of misfits in tow, who proceed to kick his head in, as we say in the UK, and steal his money. Afterwards though, keep your eyes peeled behind the bar during the brief shot where Renton exists. The bartender is now wearing the tourist's coat, clearly loving it. Number 5. Bon Appetit, The Silence of the Lambs. The Silence of the Lambs tells the heartwarming story of a brilliant cannibal doctor and the woman who uses him to solve the case of a serial killer. Definitely a family feature. Although The Silence of the Lambs isn't a movie renowned for having lots of subtle jokes, there is at least one, and it's a real doozy. Hannibal has been kept inside a cage and is brought his dinner by a couple of dim-witted guards. During this scene, Hannibal manages to escape by way of an ingenious little plan, and during one part, bites into one of the guards' faces. A few seconds before this though, we're able to catch a glimpse of a magazine on Lecture's table, a copy of Bon Appetit, French of course for enjoy your meal. Number 4. Cancel the Batman origin, Watchmen. The opening credits sequence for Zack Snyder's adaptation of one of the greatest graphic novels of all time is jam-packed with little nuggets and references to the alternative history that the world of Watchmen takes place in. There's so much information squeezed into the relatively short 3 minutes that you're bound to have missed bits, including one specifically about Batman and why he never came to exist in Watchmen's universe. One of the first shots we see is a hero beating down a villain, but look closely at the background and we can see Mr. and Mrs. Wayne leaving the Gotham Opera House. But instead of being gunned down, they're being rescued by the masked man, and a poster in the background is for an opera whose name translates to The Bat. Number 3. Bad Sushi, Kill Bill. Returning to Quentin Tarantino again, and he included a large Japanese food anecdote in Kill Bill. Probably only funny if you're familiar with Japanese culture or if you have an invested interest in raw fish. But the decision to have Hattori Hanzo run a sushi restaurant on the island of Okinawa was very deliberate. Okinawa is apparently a notoriously bad area for the dish, as the warm water means there is no high-quality fish with which to make it with. Residents of the island have strongly contested this reputation. However, there is a common consensus which suggests that it is known for not being the best. Thus, having a character move there to open a restaurant for sushi is a solid joke. The joke being that absolutely no one would bother Hattori Hanzo because nobody would want to dine there for sushi. Number 2. Miles the Hypocrite, Sideways. Here's a joke so subtle that it almost backflips into this is no longer a joke territory, but it still tickled my pickles, so it's going in anyway. In the movie Sideways, Miles and his best friend Jack embark on a wine tasting trip through California. If you haven't seen the movie, that's basically it. Along the way, Miles, a wine expert, can be heard mentioning how little he likes wines of both the Merlot and Cabernet Franc varieties. He spends almost the entire movie talking smack about them. At the end of the movie though, Miles uncorks what he considers to be his ultimate wine, the one that he's been saving for his entire life, to open at a very special moment. The wine itself is a 61 Cheval Blanc, which, and here lies the sum of the joke, is in fact a Merlot and Cabernet Franc blend. This of course will only be understood by you wine lovers out there, and is subtle with a capital S. Number 1. The entire plot is revealed in Urdu, Iron Man. At the beginning of the original Iron Man, Tony Stark is captured by terrorists, all of whom speak the Urdu language. Tony escapes thanks to a makeshift Iron Man suit and returns to the United States. The main plot twist in the movie is discovered by Pepper Potts later on, when she translates a video sent by the terrorists to Tony's friend Obadiah Stane, who is then revealed to be the villain of the movie. But if you happen to speak Urdu, you'd have actually learned about Stane's true allegiance way back before Pepper even gets around to translating the video, because the same dialogue is used at the beginning of the movie. Anybody with a grasp of the language was given a free pass to the upcoming twist, because Pepper just translates words that we've already heard. If you speak Urdu, then you were either super confused or super pleased that you were given the opportunity to feel enlightened an hour before anyone else. Now let's all jump on those apps and learn other languages, people. And there we have it, gang, our list of 10 subtle movie jokes that probably went straight over your head. But do you know of any others? Make sure you let us know down in the comments, and while you're there, make sure you give us a like and a subscribe. If you want to follow me on socials, I am at Strawn87 across all social media. Come and say hello to me on there and tell me about some of those subtle jokes that I missed. Thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and until next time, take care.